Welcome back to our city. We're doing stories that shape America. And as we continue through our Elizabeth's 250 series, we're exploring the history, people, places that connect our city to the nation's journey. Each week, we're going to highlight a new story that reflects Elizabeth's lasting impact, from our revolutionary roots to the vibrant community that we see today. So this week, our focus is on Boxwood Hall, and I'm pleased to be joined by Miss Katherine Craig, who is the caretaker of this historic site, to share the story with us. We also encourage residents to follow our social media platforms, stay up to date on upcoming events throughout our city. And if you have any questions, you can call our public information office at 908-820-4124. And now I'm pleased to be joined by Miss Katherine Craig. Katherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Katherine, you live in Boxwood Hall.
It is part of the job. I have one of the last residency required jobs in the state of New Jersey.
Now, when you applied for this job, how many years ago?
Do I have to tell you? A long time ago.
A long time ago. You knew that you were going to live in a historic home.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had lived in historic homes before, sort of, when I worked at Sandy Hook. We lived in the old sergeant's quarters out at Fort Hancock.
And then the building you live in now, George Washington had lunch there.
Yes, he did. He did not sleep there, but he had lunch there.
He had lunch there, right on the way to becoming the president. So tell us the stories that Boxwood Hall best captures the Elizabeth Revolutionary role before George had lunch.
Right. I know when I was going to school back in the Stone Age, we learned about Lexington, Concord, and Bunker Hill, which are in Massachusetts. We learned about Valley Forge, which is in Pennsylvania. We learned about Yorktown, which is in Virginia. Maybe for laughs they threw in Trenton. But what we did not learn is that this area was a war zone. We're so close to Staten Island. Staten Island was occupied by the British Army. And, you know, how easy is it to slide back and forth from both sides? The whole Hudson Valley was a war zone, but particularly northern New Jersey, anything opposite New York, and of course Elizabeth was right in the middle. This area took it in the teeth. It was pretty bad. In fact, one of the first actions, which is dated July 10th, 1776, days after the signing of the Declaration, in Elizabethtown, a British attempt to cross from Staten Island to Elizabethtown, but retreat when the militia assembles. So one of the pieces we have in the Boxwood Hall collection is a little medallion that was cast in 1976 for the bicentennial, which some of us do remember. And it says, "The first shot after independence," and that's Elizabethtown.
So Staten Island and Elizabeth, as we know even today, is extremely close. And we know there was a lot of spies on both sides, correct?
Oh, yes.
And that was probably the gist of a lot of the activity. And our militia got the nickname Minutemen, which
they had to hire
still are one of our models slogans today for our high school teams.
But also back and forth were raids. Foraging raid and capture stores.
They had to feed all these people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a little tough to farm when soldiers and spies are running around in your garden. When you see what you perceive to be a soldier, whether it's the enemy or not, you're going to hide your chickens, you're going to hide your cows, so that they don't get stolen. If you were lucky, like in the case of the people who lived at Boxwood Hall, they had money. They could move out of town for the duration. But the rest of us, you know, you lay low, you pray hard, and you do the best you can.
Who was living in Boxwood Hall at the time?
Well, it was Elias Boudinot, who was working for the government as Commissary General of U.S. prisoners, trying to get supplies to the men held in New York City. And then he went on to become a president of the United States under the Articles of Confederation.
But he was the third president of the United States. Second president.
Second president.
Okay.
First was John Hanson from Maryland. And Boudinot moved his wife and daughter to Basking Ridge for the duration, where there was a little colony out there of refugees from this area. And he put in charge of the house something else we don't think about, and I just said it, which is refugees. There were people who were fleeing the British Army in New York City. Where are they going to go? So Boudinot found one of them, and he put her in charge of Boxwood Hall until the family could move back. I mean, he was in and out to check on things, but there were refugees all over town, and all the problems that would imply to.
Catherine, preserving the house inspires today's community, and how do you do it? I mean,
Well, the house was preserved by the citizens of Elizabeth. Back in 1938, the house was scheduled for demolition. And the people, it's a depression. The government's got no money, the state's got no money, the city's got no money. So the people in Elizabeth formed the Boxwood Hall Memorial Association, and they nickeled and dimed their way to a purchase price. And one of the really cool things about that is 15% of that purchase price was raised by the students in Elizabeth and Union County. And we have the records of what the schools raised. I have photocopies that I put on to bring out. So it was saved by the people of Elizabeth. This is an effort by the city.
and who actually owns it today?
It's owned by the state of New Jersey. It was deeded to the state of New Jersey in 1941.
Okay. And so we've had presidents and patriots walk these streets and fight in these streets as well.
Yeah, there are 47 battles listed as taking place in Elizabethtown and Elizabethtown Point. That's a lot of fighting. Now, they're not all big on the stage of, say, Monmouth or Trenton, but they're pretty big. And you have the 1780 invasion, when the British are trying to get to General Washington, who's headquartered in Morristown still yet. They marched right through town. I mean, 5,000 to 7,000 troops.
Didn't we have skirmishes all up Elizabeth Avenue when they were trying to get to
yeah. Well, they were coming in, and the spies had let the Continental Army know what was going on, and a patrol was dispatched and said, fire a volley and disappear. So it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black. Out of the darkness comes a Continental Army patrol, fires a volley, and runs. Well, they get lucky, and they seriously wound the leader of the expedition, of the invasion force, because in those days, generals were in the front of the force, not behind it. So everything comes to a screeching halt while they figure out what to do next, and they don't want to move anymore because, those savages coming out of the darkness again. And that gives the militia and the army a chance to get into position. So they're harassing the British all the way from what is now Union Square in Elizabeth up through what is now Union, past Kane College. Of course, it wasn't Kane College then, and out as far as Connecticut Farms in Union.
And eventually they were stopped at Hobart Gap in Springfield, correct?
They were stopped in Union that day at Connecticut Farms. They came back and occupied Elizabeth for about 2 weeks. Elizabeth was occupied twice by British forces. Then they tried again about 2 weeks later, and then they were stopped at Springfield.
Right.
And that's what Thomas Fleming calls the forgotten victory.
Yeah, because they never got to get to George Washington and Morristown.
I grew up in New Jersey. I never learned about it.
No, because you learned about Bunker Hill and Lexington and Concord, right?
Right.
So how do residents and students connect with Boxwood Hall?
Well, right now we're open usually 5 days a week. We are free to come inside. If you need a weekend appointment, you can call and we'll set you up for one. Right in October, and John Prescott will be talking to you more about it later, the third weekend in October every year is the 4 Centuries in a Weekend Heritage Festival, sponsored by Union County Office of Cultural and Heritage Affairs. Boxwood Hall has been a part of it from the beginning. That's kind of fun. Some of the teachers get involved to give the kids extra credit if they come to that. We also encourage teens, especially as volunteers. Last year we had, 10 high school students who helped us out on 4 Centuries in a Weekend, and we really had a good time. They were an absolute blast to work with.
So, and Catherine, I know you live there, but why is this site critical to America's 250th anniversary and how we tell the story?
It tells the story not only of the famous, of Hamilton visiting as a young man, of Boudinot being a president, of Washington having lunch there, of Jonathan Dayton signing the Constitution, but it also tells the story of what went on in Elizabeth. I mean, it wasn't all beer and Skittles. Not everybody was gung-ho independence. You had the burning of the First Presbyterian Church. It was a terrorist raid, but the young men who guided the terrorists from Staten Island to Elizabeth were sons of one of the elders of the church. I mean, you think we have family fights? It's nothing new. Unfortunately. So
Catherine, we got to do you again. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information.
Thank you.
And I think as we prepare and put all of this together for the 250th anniversary, you're a person that is clearly going to play a major role.
I hope so. I think it's important for all of us, whether we date back to the founding people of Elizabethtown, or if you got off the plane last week. This is Elizabeth. This is your home. This is your country. It's nice to know the good things. Yeah, we have had some bad things happen, and we bring those up, but maybe we've learned from them.
Catherine, I still remember a couple of years back, you and I did a history class over at Sicarella, Jefferson Academy.
Oh,
and we
yeah.
did some lessons, remember?
Yep,
that
that
was a
was
lot of fun. And I consider myself a good student of history, but I nowhere have the near wealth of information that you have.
Well, I have a little more time to study history. You have other things
I
on your
know.
mind.
But thank you for doing this, Catherine.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. For Miss Katherine Craig, I'm Chris Bollwage. We'll be back with more celebration and telling the story of the 250th anniversary and what happened in the city of Elizabeth.